If you are in your 50s, like I am, or even if you're in your 40s, I think, you're probably still carrying around a Thanksgiving food baby. I know I am. It always takes me about a week to get my pre-Thanksgiving body back, you know, the week before. And mainly because we always go to my in-laws for Thanksgiving holiday, and we're there for about 4 days and 3 nights. And we eat so bad. And I try to do good, you know, some of the days that we're there, but I'm still not in my same routine. You know, I'm eating breakfast because everybody else is eating breakfast, or I'm snacking because everyone else is. And so, and then of course we have Thanksgiving and then all the desserts. And then the next day we have all the leftovers, right? So it's just this constant, I don't know, indulging the whole time, which is so much fun. And it's so hard to come back and get back into the swing of things or into your regular routine, because it's not as fun, is it? But anyway, now that we're this age, if you're in your 40s or 50s, you've probably noticed that once we eat, it goes straight to our midsection. There's not this even distribution that there once was. And so it takes a little bit more effort. So whenever I come home, I'm very particular about what I eat. So this is going to be a grocery shopping haul. I'm going to show you, these are things that I typically choose anyway. And so, you know, whenever I come back from the holidays, that's what I do. I just jump back into the way that I typically eat. And I do try to avoid like the starchy carbs, like breads, rice, pastas, things like that. So yeah, let's go ahead and jump in and let me show you what I purchased at the grocery store. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with the meats. Chicken breast. I always buy the frozen chicken breast. I prefer them over the ones that are not frozen. And I always grill my chicken on the barbecue pit. And I'll just grill it all, like the whole bag, and then I will save it in a baggie in the refrigerator. And there's so many things that you can use grilled chicken for. You can put it over salad, you can make chicken fajitas, you know, grill up some bell peppers and onions and wrap it in a low carb tortilla. The best way for me to stay on track is to create alternatives for some of my favorite things. I love chicken fried steak. I'm not gonna fry it because obviously it's no longer healthy if you fry it, and I've never fried anything in my life, so I don't even know how. So what I do is I grill it, but then I'll dip it in a side of gravy, maybe some chicken gravy. Sometimes I like to just use cream of chicken soup and pour it over the top. There's other packages of gravy, like cream gravy. You can buy it. It's got very little fat or calories. You just add water to it, and it's so delicious. And then it tastes like I'm eating chicken fried steak, even though I'm not, just because of the gravy. You know what I mean? But anyway, you can't go wrong buying a huge bag of chicken and grilling it. You also cannot go wrong by picking up a rotisserie chicken. You know, I use canned chicken a lot for a lot of meals. I can't even tell you how many. But a lot of people get upset with me for that. They're like, just get a rotisserie and shred it. You know, I do sometimes. I'll take a rotisserie and I will take all the skin off. I will debone it, but then I will rinse my chicken under steaming hot water, because when you get a rotisserie, that chicken is very, very greasy because it's been cooked in the skin. I don't typically cook anything in the skin. Occasionally I will bake some chicken in the oven, and still it's so greasy, and with grease there's fat. So anyway, a lot of times I know my kids, they love eating, and I won't do this for them. I don't rinse it for them, but I will rinse it if I am putting it in a mixture where there's going to be other sauces to flavor it. My children love mesquite rotisserie chicken sandwiches. They'll eat those for dinner. Like, we'll either put them on a hamburger bun. My daughter likes just tons of pickles. They both love tons of pickles. Sometimes my son just likes the rotisserie by itself with a side of macaroni and cheese or mashed potatoes or something like that. Like, they don't eat quite as good as I do. Now, their main course is typically the same as mine, but they might have side items that I don't typically eat. But anyway, you can't go wrong with a rotisserie. And there's so many things that you can put a deboned rotisserie chicken into. My mother-in-law makes a King Ranch chicken. It's our favorite. So whenever we come to visit, she always makes us one with a big side of homemade mashed potatoes. And she always uses a rotisserie. She debones it and puts it, you know, in the King Ranch chicken. It's so good. And we don't, you know, it's a treat for us because I don't ever make it here. And so when we go there, it's the only time we ever have King Ranch chicken. And so she makes it for us every single time, and we love it. And we take it home and we eat it the next day when we get home. But anyway, there's so many uses for rotisserie chicken. Another thing that I like to eat is ahi tuna. It's so low in fat. It's got 190 calories per serving, and there's 2 servings, 1.5 grams of fat, and 44 grams of protein. And so it's really good for you. The way that I cook it, I just sear it with some blackened like fish seasoning. I think that's what it's called. And then it's kind of almost raw on the inside, and it's so delicious. Sometimes I'll even just dip it in like soy sauce. Oh my gosh, it's making my mouth water right now. Like soy sauce and sesame seed oil, is that what it is? Like just a few drops just to give it that flavor. So good. And then I always pick up some sirloins. Fillets are typically my favorite, but sirloins are gonna be a little bit cheaper, but they're also, you know, just like fillets, they don't have a lot of fat. I'm not gonna be eating ribeyes. I'm just not. Some people are like, oh my God, I love all the fat. No, I don't. And when I get a big piece of fat in my mouth, it like grosses me out. And I just prefer lean. I'm trying to keep the weight off. And so unless you're on a no carb diet where your body needs the extra fat for energy, then there's no sense in eating a ribeye. And so anyway, me and my son really love these sirloins, and they're so good, again, on the grill. I just do everything on the grill. It's so much easier, and there's no cleanup, right? And then I always like to pick up a big thing of ham like this. This we will just eat as a snack a lot of times, mainly as a snack, but I also like to put it in my eggs, and I'll just make egg whites with this ham and some cheese sprinkled on top. It's so good. But this just by itself is so delicious, and this lasts forever. Usually I will cut it and freeze part of it because we can't go through it fast enough for it to stay good, because it is uncured Carver ham. This is hickory smoked. It says no nitrates added. I think it's just better for you than deli meats, even though I do eat deli meats. But this stuff is so good just to snack on. Okay, and then I have some shrimp, some boiled shrimp. Again, very low fat, 1.5 grams of fat per serving, and there's 4 servings in this bag right here, 80 calories per serving. There's so many things that I can eat with boiled shrimp. I will make my little spring roll wraps. I usually make Asian dishes with my shrimp. Occasionally, I will just have it on the side of my steak or on the side of some chicken. I usually like to have more meat and then maybe like a vegetable rather than a starch. You know, that's what I try to do whenever especially when I'm trying to lose weight. But so shrimp is a good option. I don't eat shrimp every week. I would say I eat it maybe once every 3 weeks, but I always like to have some handy, you know, just in case. Now I know somebody is gonna crucify me for this one. These are turkey hot dogs. And I like to wrap these in a low carb tortilla and put them in my air fryer. And to me, it satisfies my craving for like a corn dog, because I dip it in mustard. And the tortilla gets really, really crispy. And so anyway, so low fat. Now I know hot dogs are very processed and they're not good for us, which is why I don't eat them every single day. So these are things, you know, I might eat these maybe once every 2 or 3 weeks. I don't eat them that often, but I always like to have some. And then I like to have some uncured turkey pepperoni. I do make an alternative to a pizza. And again, you know, a low carb tortilla. There's a few ways that you can make like an alternative to a pizza using low carb tortillas. And I've shown you them here on my channel before. In my description box, I'm gonna put a playlist of my diet playlist, because I have so many. I was going through it just the other day, and I was like, God, I need to make that again. I forget some of the things that I once made, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, why haven't I made that in a long time? But anyway, so I do like to make a lot of stuff as a snack with turkey pepperoni. Sometimes I will just take a low carb tortilla and put a mozzarella cheese stick in it, and then put some pepperoni in there and roll it, put it in the microwave, and then dip it in like some ragu. I know somebody's gonna be like, oh my God. You know, I'll tell you one thing. If you know somebody who's thin and has been thin their entire life, you're gonna realize that they eat the weirdest combinations of things, and they will just come up with stuff that they know is not gonna put the weight on, but still tastes really good. And that's what I do really, really often. So anyway, I always like to have some turkey pepperoni. And then of course I do have, this has already been opened actually. I do have just some regular deli turkey, you know, smoked turkey. It's Oscar Mayer. It does say no nitrates added, no artificial preservatives, 100% turkey, you know, so I know deli meat's not great for us, and I don't eat it every day. I do not eat deli meat every day, but sometimes I like to just roll a piece of cheese in some turkey and dip it in some mustard, you know, not just one, I'll eat several. Or sometimes I will just take like a little lettuce leaf and put some turkey in there and some cheese and some mustard and mayonnaise and roll it up and eat it like a sandwich without the bread. And it's so good. So yeah, that's another thing. And then I think this is the last kind of meat that I typically buy, and I have to always, not every single week, probably every other week, I have to buy a big pack of the chicken breast, canned chicken breast, because I make so many meals with canned chicken breast. I will make chicken salad and I will put it in a lettuce leaf and just eat it like that. I make the chicken flautas. I've been making this like enchilada chicken soup, and it's so delicious. And it's just ingredients that I just threw together going, I wonder if this would work. And now I've eaten it like twice this week for dinner because it's so good. And I just use canned chicken. I ate the whole can of chicken. Sometimes I will just put canned chicken in over a bowl of rice with some cream of chicken soup. Sometimes I will make noodles, cream of chicken soup, canned chicken. So good, so simple. If you are wanting convenience in and out of the kitchen, you can use canned chicken for so many recipes. You just basically substitute regular chicken for canned chicken. And especially if you're mixing it with sauces and stuff, you're not going to be able to taste the difference. You know, it's shredded just like you would even if you took a rotisserie and shredded it up. It's going to be the same thing. They just put it in a can for you, you know? So anyway, those are pretty much all the meats, I think. Okay, next up is fruits and vegetables. I'm going to start with the one that we eat the most of, which is why I have 3 bags of grapes. And I still have a purple bag in the refrigerator that we're eating on. We eat grapes every single day. Every day, my son either gets grapes or apples as his sweet in his lunchbox. That's the only sweet he gets. He doesn't get anything else. There was a time I would give him like Nutri-Grain bars or, you know, stuff like that. And they're just packed with sugar. So anyway, my son gets them every single day in his lunchbox. I snack on them every single time I go to the refrigerator. I just pluck a few and eat them. Next up are apples. And I am a little bit of a snob when it comes to apples. They have to be the Honeycrisp apples, and they have to be like perfectly round. I'm really particular when I'm picking them out. Anyway, I will only eat the Honeycrisp. If you have not tried a Honeycrisp, don't, because you'll take them. I'm just kidding. Because you'll never look back. Like, you'll never want to eat another apple again. They are the perfect mix of sweet and sour, and they're just so, so delicious. Next up are avocados. That's a fruit, right? It's got a seed. Anyway, I always eat avocados with my boiled eggs, if I make eggs, like any type of egg meal, I always like to have avocados. If I make any Mexican style, anything, I always like to have some guacamole. And yeah, that's pretty much it, I think. And oh, also, if I make my little spring rolls, I like to put a slice of avocado in there. But I also like to put a little bit of cilantro. You either love or hate cilantro. I love it. I like it in, you know, anything Mexican food related, especially beans. But I also like it in salads. Like sometimes I'll make this little cucumber salad. I put cucumber, garbanzo beans, and some cilantro. It's so, so good. That cilantro just gives it that really fresh taste. Now I always have to buy lettuce because I eat a lot of lettuce boats for lunch. I typically like to make some chicken salad and then eat it just in a lettuce leaf and roll it up like a taco. And then I make salads all the time, like all the time. Another thing I always like to buy are peppers. You know, if I'm gonna make a fajita dish, or if I'm gonna make, sometimes I put them in my eggs. I also like to make bell pepper nachos. So you just, you know, cut little slices of the bell pepper off and put ground beef with taco seasoning in them and stick them in the microwave with some shredded cheese over the top. So, so good. I've made them before here on this channel. And, you know, I like to eat them just raw. So sometimes I'll just slice them up and then have them like as a side item for dinner because I just like the crunch and I like to be doing something. It makes me feel like I'm eating more. So cauliflower is another thing that I like to eat pretty often. I like to eat it raw. My son likes to eat it raw also. Also, I like to put it in salads. I like to steam it and then kind of make it like a baked potato. So I'll just put a little bit of butter and some shredded cheese on there. It's so delicious like that. So I just always like to have cauliflower. Another thing are cucumbers. This also makes a really good side item. Me and my daughter love eating cucumbers on the side. Instead of chips, instead of a salad, you know, for dinner, just slice up a cucumber and dip it in ranch. It's so good. I also like to substitute pickles for cucumbers in my sandwiches sometimes, or I'll make, those pinwheel rolls, and I always use cucumbers. So there's so many, so many ways that I use cucumbers in a week, and so I always pick up cucumbers. Okay, don't get mad at me because I buy canned goods, but I do. And so let's start with the ones that I know that I use the most, and that is going to be chickpeas or garbanzo beans. I just love them. Like I said, I put them in salads. I will just eat these straight out of the can. Well, rinsed, but then straight out of the can, like not heated. I also make a garbanzo bean dip with diced tomatoes and onions and cilantro. It's so good. I've made it on this channel before. Another thing that I use regularly is pineapple. So either I'm gonna buy crushed, sliced, it doesn't matter what kind, but I will put it in our shakes. Like me and my son, we like this pistachio protein shake. I put it in little desserts. I also love to eat pineapple with cottage cheese. It's such a great way to get in some of your protein. Add cottage cheese to everything, and it's so good. Another thing that I use very often is cream of chicken. Like I said, sometimes I will just use it as a dip for our grilled chicken, or kind of like a gravy, and it's just really thick. It's thick like a gravy, and it's got a really good taste to it. And so, or I'll put it in a noodle dish, or I'll make, there's certain recipes that call for cream of chicken, so I just always like to have some, and cream of mushroom. And then of course I buy either the 98% fat-free or the healthy choice, because I'm trying to always keep my fat content low. This is something else that I can eat straight out of the can. I know people are gonna be like, that's so disgusting. But if you rinse your mushrooms, you can eat them straight out of the can. And me and my sister, my older sister, Stephanie, I will never forget, when her daughter was like 1 year old, we were at the mall and we had some canned mushrooms that we had rinsed, and we had them in a cup holder. And we were just eating them as we were strolling, her daughter around in a stroller. And I'll never forget that for some reason, but both of us were like, oh, this is so good. And it was literally, canned mushrooms. So, but anyway, I just like to have them in my pantry because there's a lot of things that you can cook with, mushrooms. So then refried beans. I eat refried beans all the time. That is one thing that I do. I'll make burritos with some low carb tortillas. I make tostadas. I'll make nachos. There's just so many ways to eat quesadillas. And of course, I always try to use like a low carb tortilla or something like this. Whenever I'm making my tostadas, I like to use these baked chips because they have lower fat and calories. 150 calories in 3 and 1.5 grams of fat. And then this has almost nothing in it, like 100 calories in a whole half a cup and 2.5 grams of fat. Whenever I'm trying to lose weight, if I eat this for like 3 days in a row, in the evenings for dinner, 3 tostadas with lettuce and tomatoes and onions and a little bit of guacamole and a little bit of sour cream and some salsa. It's so filling. 3 of those is pretty filling with, obviously beans and some melted cheese over the top. I will always lose weight, always, if I eat that meal 3 days in a row. And so anyway, and it's delicious. It is so good. It's actually my mom's favorite. Every time she comes over, she's like, make your tostadas. And so, yeah. And then this is not a can, but it's just some chicken gravy. Again, we make so many chicken dishes, or I do. And so I always like to switch it up a little bit with, just seasonings or things to dip it in, or ways to put it in other, dishes or something like that. And then this is the last thing. These are just filling. This is an apple pie. It's a light apple pie filling and a light cherry filling. And they both have about 4 or 5 grams of sugar per serving, so they're a little bit better for you. And I have on this channel made a little alternative to one of those little fold over apple pies, the kind that you find in like the grocery store that's prepackaged and stuff like that. I made my alternative because I found it on another girl's TikTok, and it's so good, and it calls for the light apple filling. To me, it tastes just like an apple pie. And then of course I put some no sugar whipped cream on it. So good. So again, I'm gonna put my playlist in my description box so you can go check those out if you're interested. Okay, so these are just the leftover randoms. I didn't know what category to put them in. So anyway, I always buy some keto bread, and this is my favorite. If you live near an HEB, you have to get this one. It is made by Higher Harvest, and it tastes closest to regular bread than any of the other keto breads that I've ever tried. And I've probably tried maybe 6. And so this one's just the best. It's so good, I could just eat it by itself. Next up is something that I like to snack on, and it is light butter popcorn. You know, whenever I was young and I was really strict about, you know, wanting to keep my physique a certain way, one thing that I used to snack on, I used to pop my own popcorn and then I would dip it in mustard and it would keep me busy and I felt like it was good. And it wasn't bad for you, you know, it wasn't good for you, but it wasn't bad for you. So much better for you than regular popcorn when you get the light. However, this one does not taste like light at all. Like it tastes really, really buttery, but it only has, you know, 4 grams of fat per serving rather than the 8 or 10 that regular popcorn has. And so you can eat a little bit more than you would like. Next up, yogurt. And this is the Too Good yogurt. This is the vanilla yogurt. It only has 2 grams of fat per serving. This is what I like to do. I always like to add some 0 sugar pudding to it. And all it does is make the yogurt taste like whatever flavor your pudding is. I like to, there's one that I can only buy on Amazon. I can't find it in store. This is banana, but it's a cheesecake. And I put some cheesecake pudding in there and then I'll crumble up a little graham cracker. To me, it tastes just like a cheesecake. Like it's so good. And because this is like a thicker consistency, it even has almost the consistency of a cheesecake. It's just so, so good. But you're getting 13 grams of protein per serving. So I always like to keep yogurt in my refrigerator. Here's my 0 sugar pistachio pudding that I like to add. And then I think the only other one, I wish they had a strawberry. That would be so good. Next up, cottage cheese. Always have cottage cheese. I mix cottage cheese in my ground beef. I mix cottage cheese in my eggs. I will mix cottage cheese in this new little enchilada soup that I just started making a couple days ago. And you can't, it doesn't taste like cottage cheese. When you heat it up, it ends up just tasting cheesier than without it, you know? So whenever I add it to my hamburger meat, it makes it taste cheesier. So anyway, I love, and then you add protein without adding any fat because let's see, this has in a half a cup, 90 calories and 1.5 grams of fat, but it has 12 grams of protein. So you add a bunch of protein without adding a bunch of calories and fat. Something else I always have in our refrigerator is almond coconut milk. Either, if I can find this, I always buy this one because I like the almond and coconut. Sometimes I just get the almond, but I prefer it over just regular milk for our shakes. And so that's usually what we use. Now these are the creamers that I use to sweeten my coffee every morning. They're sugar-free. They have 0 sugar. And this is vanilla. This is chocolate. And I make iced coffee. I've never drank hot coffee. I mean, I've tasted hot coffee before, but I never started out drinking hot coffee. I have only drank iced coffee my entire life. And I just prefer it. You know where I was first introduced to it was at a convenience store. They had this coffee drink that was just, and it was very icy. Like you would have to get it out of one of those machines. And I was like, I have to recreate this somehow because I just thought it was so good. And so that's what I try to do. This is something else that I like to buy. These are konjac, I don't know how to pronounce it, noodles. There is almost nothing to them, but I love to make my little spring rolls out of them. I also make this little Asian dish with some cilantro and some shrimp and some shredded lettuce. And it's just, they're noodles. They have nothing to them. They have 10 calories per serving. There's 3 servings, no fat, no nothing. It's like, they don't even have carbs. They have 2 grams of carbs. And to me, they just taste like, it's making my mouth water. To me, they just taste like an Asian noodle. Those real thin, I don't know what they're called from. I can't remember. I don't want to get it wrong. But so yeah. And then of course, I just have some packages of, you know, different types of cream gravy because I like to put cream gravy over my chicken sometimes. And then I've got also, I always have to have some taco seasoning because I eat a lot of Mexican foods. Sometimes I like to cook up just some ground beef and add taco seasoning and then save it. And then I'll use that sometimes to mix with eggs. When I mix it with eggs, it tastes so good to me. And that could be a meal. You know, that would make a very hearty breakfast, but it could also make a dinner. I don't have a problem like eating breakfast foods for dinner or lunch, but so I always have to have some taco seasoning. And I don't know how I almost forgot eggs because we eat, I can't even tell you how many eggs we eat in a given week. I have a whole carton of boiled eggs in my refrigerator right now, but I just eat eggs so much. And when I make my eggs, I usually just use the egg whites. Sometimes I'll throw in maybe 1 yolk, But so I go through a lot of eggs really, really easily. Another thing that I always buy are these low carb tortillas. These are the carb counters. These are the softest, I think. And so I like to make my burritos with them. If I make like a breakfast taco, which I don't, I rarely make a breakfast taco, but when I go to my in-laws, I will, and I'll take these and use those. These are another little package of tortillas that I use. They have 0 carbs. You can put one of these in the microwave for a minute and it comes out the consistency of a cracker. It's so crispy and it's so good. So these have 25 calories per serving and they only have 1 gram of fat, 1.5 grams of fat, and then they have no carbs. But the reason they have no carbs is because they do have 7 carbs, but then they have 7 grams of dietary fiber. So in order to figure out the net carb count, you always subtract the fiber from the carbs, and so they have 0 carbs. So anyway, you're getting some fiber in there too, and 2 grams of protein. That's weird. In each tortilla. So sometimes, I'll make 2 or 3 in the microwave and just get them really crispy. And sometimes I just want something crunchy to munch on. I've done that in the last, like yesterday actually. And so that's what I'll do. Instead of like eating a cracker or eating chips or something like that, I'll eat something like this. And then I might dip it in like some sour cream and onion dip or something like that. And of course I have to make it myself. And then something else that we eat really often around this time of year are beans. And I make this 16 bean soup. The last time my daughter was here, actually, the last 2 times my daughter was here, she asked me to make a big pot of it for her to take with her, back to college. And so anyway, it's really, really good. And I do put regular bacon in there, not a whole lot, but I use a lot of bacon salt, and I actually use, you're not gonna believe this, but I use steak rub seasoning instead of the packet that comes with it. I throw that out, and then I just use regular bacon, not a whole lot, but just enough to flavor it, and then some bacon salt, and then some steak rub seasoning, and it's so, so good. And then of course you put some onions in there, and so anyway, yeah. So I always have these, during the fall and winter because we eat a lot of beans. Okay, I think that about covers it. I'm sure I forgot something. I always do. But I feel like I've been here forever. I feel like I've been here for like at least an hour and a half. I know I have. And you should see my kitchen right now. I have groceries on every single counter, except of course the ones behind me, because that would look, trashy. But anyway, so these are just the groceries that I buy regularly in order for me to keep a physique that I'm comfortable with or that I like. So anyway, I hope you found this video to be helpful or useful in some way, and I always appreciate your time. So I hope you're having a fantastic weekend, and hopefully I will see you back here next week.